Subscribe to my channel for more stories. Now let's begin this one.
I trusted my sister with my novel, a dream woven from years of struggle, until she claimed it as her own at a public library reading, only for me to unveil a manuscript that exposed her lies and reclaimed my story, silencing her in front of the town. My sister took my book at the library reading, then I showed a manuscript that shamed her. At 34, I, Lily Evans, had carved a quiet but passionate life in Brookhaven, a small Vermont town where maple trees lined the streets and the library was the heart of our community. Writing was my refuge, my way of making sense of the world since I was Ruby, who'd been 6 when I first scribbled stories in a notebook. My novel, Driftwood Hearts, was my masterpiece, a multi-generational saga of love and loss set on Vermont's rugged coast, inspired by my late mother's tales of her youth. I'd spent 5 years crafting it, balancing motherhood and my part-time job at Brookhaven Books, a cozy bookstore where I shelved novels I dreamed of rivaling. My husband, Owen, a carpenter with a dry wit and a steady heart, was my biggest supporter, reading every draft, his feedback sharpening my prose. Our daughter, Ruby, aged 6, was my spark, her bedtime stories filled with my characters, her questions, "Why's the lady sad, Mommy?" shaping the book's soul. The novel was more than words, it was a promise to Ruby, a legacy to show her dreams could come true. My goal was a publishing deal, and Brookhaven's annual library reading, a showcase for local authors, was my chance to shine. My younger sister, Grace, was a contrast, vibrant, ambitious, but restless. At 30, she'd bounced between jobs in Boston, from barista to marketing assistant, always chasing a spotlight that never came. When she moved back to Brookhaven last fall, broke and humbled, I welcomed her, remembering the sister who'd once acted out my childhood stories in our backyard. Grace claimed she wanted to find herself, and I let her stay in our guest room, sharing my novel with her, hoping it would inspire her. She read it eagerly, her praise, "Lily, this is incredible," warming me. I trusted her, my first mistake. The library reading was a big event, drawing publishers from Burlington and locals who loved a good story. Grace offered to help organize my presentation, suggesting slides and even practicing my reading with me. "Let me handle the setup," she said, her smile bright. "You focus on shining." I agreed, grateful, never suspecting she'd use the stage to steal my dream. The Brookhaven Library was aglow, its oak shelves gleaming under fairy lights, the reading room packed with neighbors, book club members, and a literary agent, Ms. Clara Thornton, whose presence made my palms sweat. Owen sat in the front row, Ruby on his lap, her pigtails bouncing as she waved to go, "Mommy," sign she'd drawn. I wore my best navy dress, my manuscript pages trembling in my hands, ready to read a chapter from Driftwood Hearts. Grace bustled about, adjusting the projector, her energy a reassuring hum. The event began, local poets and memoirists sharing their work, the crowd warm and attentive. Then Grace took the stage, her voice confident, her red dress catching the light. "I'm thrilled to share my novel, Driftwood Hearts," she said, holding up a printed copy of my manuscript. "It's a story from my heart, years in the making." My breath caught, the room spinning. "My novel?" The crowd applauded, Thornton leaning forward, scribbling notes. Grace read my opening chapter, her voice weaving the words I'd labored over, claiming every sentence as hers. I stood, my voice shaking. "That's my book," I shouted, pushing toward the stage. Grace paused, her smile tight but unshaken. "Lily's my editor, folks," she said, laughing. "She helped polish it. But this is my story." The crowd chuckled, some nodding, others glancing at me with pity. Thornton's eyes flicked between us, her pen still. Owen's face was thunder, his arm around Ruby, who whispered, "Why is she saying it's hers, Daddy?" My heart pounded, humiliated in front of Brookhaven. My dream stolen in the library where I'd first fallen in love with books. Grace's betrayal wasn't just theft. It was a dagger, twisting our sisterly bond into something unrecognizable. We left the reading in a daze, the crowd's murmurs trailing us to our small cottage, where Ruby Books' fairy lights still glowed. At home, Ruby climbed into my lap, tears in her eyes. "Is your story gone, Mommy?" she asked, her voice small. I hugged her tightly, promising, "No, sweetheart, it's still ours," even as rage and fear churned inside me. Owen, usually so calm, was furious, pacing the kitchen. "She doesn't get to do this, Lily," he said, his voice low. "We'll prove it's yours." I couldn't sleep, Grace's voice, "This is my story," echoing like a taunt. I wasn't a detective, but desperation made me relentless. I started in my writing nook, a corner of our living room filled with notebooks and coffee stains. My original manuscript was there, stored on my laptop and backed up in the cloud, with drafts dating back 5 years, each revision timestamped. I found my first handwritten notebook, pages filled with character sketches, plot outlines, and notes inspired by Ruby's questions, all in my messy scrawl. Every draft bore my name, my dates, my heart. Then I remembered Grace's laptop, which she'd used at our house for job applications. One evening, she'd left it open, and I'd seen her email open. Feeling a twinge of guilt but driven by necessity, I logged in, finding a folder labeled Writing. Inside was a bombshell, emails between Grace and a friend in Boston where she bragged about taking Lily's book to get a deal and start over. Another email was a pitch to Thornton Grove Press, sent weeks before the reading, claiming Driftwood Hearts as her original work with my manuscript attached. She'd even forged a submission letter with my signature, a clumsy imitation. I contacted Mr. Henry Walsh, the bookstore owner who'd known me since I was a kid, sneaking into his poetry readings. Henry, now a town historian, had seen my writing evolve and confirmed I'd shared Driftwood Hearts with him years ago, before Grace's return. He also revealed Grace had asked him about publishing, hinting she'd found a manuscript. "She's been planning this," Henry said, his voice heavy. I needed more, so I reached out to Mrs. Ellen Carter, a library volunteer who'd overheard Grace practicing her reading at the community center, boasting about finally making it big. Owen recorded her statement discreetly, her words a key piece of the puzzle. Over the next week, Owen and I transformed our kitchen table into a war room, papers strewn like battle plans, Ruby asleep upstairs, dreaming of the fairy tales she loved. My manuscript was the heart of our case, hundreds of drafts, each timestamped in my laptop's archives, tracing Driftwood Hearts from a fleeting idea scribbled on a napkin to a polished novel ready for the world. I printed screenshots of Grace's emails, her brazen pitch to Thornton Grove, and her incriminating texts to a colleague, gloating about her easy win, all backed up and notarized by Mr. Alan Pierce, a lawyer who'd guided Mom through her estate with quiet kindness. Owen, ever the meticulous planner, crafted a video presentation weaving my draft history with Grace's emails into a visual timeline so clear it felt like a spotlight on her lies. Our neighbor, Mrs. Torres, offered her old laptop, revealing deleted emails Grace had sent from a shared account, further proof of her theft. Mrs. Carter's testimony was pure gold. She'd overheard Grace at a cafe admitting the book wasn't hers, her voice smug. "Lily won't know until it's too late." Her brief recording, captured on her phone, was a crystal-clear dagger. A call to Grace's former Boston roommate unveiled her motives: drowning in debt from a failed blog, unpaid rent piling up, her dreams of literary fame slipping away. Driftwood Hearts was her desperate escape, a chance to steal a spotlight she couldn't earn. I felt a flicker of sorrow for the sister who'd once drawn me stars to hang in our childhood room, but her betrayal was a deliberate choice, one that threatened Ruby's future and the dreams I'd poured into my novel. Our small community rallied, with the local librarian, Ms. Hayes, providing logs of my late-night writing sessions at the library, bolstering our timeline. Ruby, sensing our resolve, brought a quiet strength that anchored us. One night, she tiptoed downstairs, clutching a drawing of a book with Mama's story scrawled in bright crayon. "For the bad lady to see," she said, her eyes fierce with a child's unyielding belief. I hugged her tightly, tucking the drawing into my bag for luck, its colors a reminder of why we fought. We planned our confrontation for the library readings closing event, where Thornton Grove and the community would gather to announce a publishing deal. Our friends, the Patels, promised to attend, their presence a shield, while Owen rehearsed my speech, ensuring my voice would carry the weight of truth. The closing event was electric, the library buzzing with anticipation, Thornton's presence drawing a larger crowd. Grace arrived, radiant in a green dress, chatting with locals, her confidence unshaken. She'd moved out of our house after the reading, claiming she needed space, but her smug glances told me she thought she'd won. Owen sat beside me, Ruby on his lap, her drawing in my bag, a talisman against the nerves knotting my stomach. Mr. Pierce stood nearby, ready to back our evidence legally, while Mrs. Carter nodded from the crowd, her support a quiet anchor. The library director, Ms. Jane Howell, opened the event, praising the authors, then invited submissions for the publishing deal. Grace stepped forward, ready to pitch her novel again, but I raised my hand. "I have something to share," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Howell nodded, and I connected my laptop to the projector, the screen glowing with my manuscript's first draft. "Grace stole my novel," I said, my words cutting through the murmurs. I played Owen's video, showing my drafts, their dates stretching back years, then Grace's emails, her boastful texts, and Mrs. Carter's recording. "Lily won't know until it's too late." The crowd gasped, heads turning to Grace, whose face drained of color. I held up my notebook, its worn pages a testament to my work, and read a passage only I could know, a deleted scene never shared with Grace. Thornton's eyes narrowed, scribbling furiously, while Howell's frown deepened. "It's a lie," Grace cried, her voice cracking as she pushed toward the stage. "Lily's jealous, forging evidence." But Mr. Pierce stepped forward, presenting the notarized documents, his voice calm but firm. "These are verified," he said, handing them to Howell. The crowd turned, some whispering, others glaring at Grace, their trust in her crumbling. Thornton stood, her voice sharp. "We don't publish plagiarists, Ms. Evans." She offered me a meeting to discuss Driftwood Hearts, her nod a lifeline. Grace slumped, tears streaming, and left the library, her dream shattered in the room where she tried to steal mine. Grace's reputation collapsed in Brookhaven's tight-knit community where trust is currency. The library banned her from events, and locals shunned her, their loyalty to Maplewood Books, where I still worked, unwavering. Rumors reached us that she'd moved to New Hampshire, working as a waitress, her literary ambitions buried under her debts and disgrace. I didn't gloat, her fall wasn't my victory. My victory was Driftwood Hearts, now in talks with Thornton Grove Press, its pages a testament to my resilience, Ruby's pride, Owen's love. We rebuilt in Brookhaven's embrace. Owen and I hosted a community reading at the bookstore, sharing new chapters, Ruby passing out bookmarks she'd drawn, her smile healing the scars of Grace's betrayal. Henry Walsh organized a writers' group, naming me its leader, a role that let me mentor others, my dream expanding beyond one book. Ruby, now dreaming of her own stories, started a kids' writing club, her notebook filled with tales of brave girls like her mom. The betrayal left a wound. Grace had been my sister, her starry drawings a memory of childhood nights whispering secrets. Losing that hurt, a reminder to guard what mattered. Owen, sensing my quiet moments, pulled me aside one night under Brookhaven's starry sky, Ruby asleep inside. "You're stronger than you know," he said, his hand in mine. "You saved our story." I kissed him, grateful for his steadiness, for Ruby's light, for the novel that was ours again. A year later, Grace sent a letter, postmarked from Concord, her handwriting shaky. "I'm sorry, Lily," she wrote. "I was lost, desperate, and I broke us. I hope you publish your book." I read it in my writing nook, Owen beside me, Ruby's latest story on the table. I didn't reply, not yet, the pain was still raw, but I kept the letter in a drawer, beside Ruby's drawing, a reminder that family can falter but also mend, given time. One evening, as snow fell over Brookhaven, I stood outside the library, its windows glowing, my manuscript under review. Owen wrapped his arms around me, Ruby skipping ahead, chasing snowflakes. "Your book's gonna be big, Mommy," she said, her voice bright. I smiled, my heart full. "It already is, kiddo." The reading that nearly broke me became my triumph, proof that my story, our story, was written in truth and no one could steal that.